Everything is chemistry, and chemistry always wins because it's the chemistry that gives us the sensory experiences. It's the chemistry that makes sure that we have an interpretation of it and act accordingly. So everything is down to chemistry. But our chemistry, it also goes the other way around, because if you don't have the proper amount of a certain hormone, for example, then you will get a certain perception of your reality. And that's where the chemistry is starting to dictate how we perceive the reality. For example, this neurology sitting here, this someone believing itself to exist that has this neurology is Asperger's. I'm autistic, which means that the way that this neurology perceives the reality is different than how other people perceive the reality. Just like you said, you got OCD. That the way that your neurology is perceiving reality is different than what other people perceive the reality. And that does not mean that it's wrong. You just perceive it differently. And then something very, very interesting happens, and that's it's some when there's a miscommunication in the senses that we pick up, and it's not put in the right boxes, then we start to get conditions like synesthesia. And synesthesia is a condition that is very, very normal for autistic people, that one sense is picking up and giving a signal to another sense. For example, you can feel music, or you can smell colors, or you can, for example, in my instance, I have a very how can I say, my sense of smell is picks up more than what normal people pick up, if I can say like that. Now it starts to be a little bit. What I can smell is the biochemistry. And since the biochemistry is shaping a person's psychology, I can also smell, in that extent, I can smell, for example, how people feel. If I go into a room, I can smell, if somebody has an anxiety, if they got diabetes, if they're pregnant, if they got OCD, if they, whatever emotional or physical state they're in, my sense of smell picks it up, which has been super useful as a doctor, obviously. Being able to smell what the patients need is a huge advantage, but it's also overwhelming, because going to the store, and picking up on need to regulate the statins they're getting, the blood thinners they're getting, and they need to regulate. They got diabetes, and she's pregnant, and he got an anxiety, and it's a lot to pick up from everywhere. But that I can do that is not weird or something special. For a lot of people, it might seem weird. But I mean, if dogs could talk, they would think humans were weird, that we can't hear anything, and we can't smell anything, and we can't, So it's only within the reference that we're used to that we shape our lives and perceive what is real and what is not real. For example, with you with OCD, I'm sorry if I'm a little bit humbly bumbly when I talk, but my brain kind of works. It's another blessing of autism that my brain works very quick and with lots of different topics at the same time. You're welcome to say something. It's not a monologue.
No, I like it. I like it actually when it's like that. It's just randomly
Yeah.
uncontrolled. It's all. I'm also like that. I also like when I talk to somebody, it's all over the place, and I don't know where to go anymore. But it's fun to have this conversation. Like you're mentioning autism and OCD. It's in some. It's like I used to be ashamed of that in the past, especially when I was taking psychiatric medications to
Yeah.
regulate it, and with the depression and anxiety,
Yeah.
it was, but but that's just a personality structure of
Yes.
this body mind form. It's not like something shameful or something makes you less of it's just the uniqueness of of life expressing as that something that I made peace with it. It's it
Yeah.
doesn't have any shame. It's all
It's actually a really good example because what you talk about, if you got OCD and you think there's something wrong with you, then you will take medication that with the purpose of removing it. But the thing is that there's a lot of advantages with whatever biochemistry we have. There's a lot of advantage. There's always useful things in it. You can take any situation and make use of it, to expand your perception and seeing what is real. For example, with OCD, you can have a very, very profound conviction that like you said, having germs on your hands, so you need to wash them, or you can have a very um, set in stone perception of reality that this is how it is. And then you get, for example, you take peptides. It's not chemical medication. Peptides are you got proteins. If you cut them down and you look further at them, you got amino acids. If you cut them down, look further, and you got peptides. So peptides is the protein structure that a lot of our internal communication is happening within the cells. It's happening with peptides, and you can take peptides to increase your dopamine level in the brain, which means that your OCD is going to get less. And when you can regulate yourself with chemistry like that, that only means that reality is not real. Whatever we perceive as reality is not real, because and it's the same with everything in our chemistry. If you have too much cortisol, you will get stressed. In some people, they get stressed if they have too low cortisol. So it's about finding out how to adjust the chemistry so the perception of reality we live in is livable, if I can say it like that.
yes.
But what is important, and this is very important, I think, when we talk about biology and biochemistry and endocrinology and autism and OCD, it's very important to remember that it's not real. It's only about how we perceive the world. And just because I perceive the world where I can smell everything, that does not mean that everybody can smell everything and that it's normal to be able to smell everything. Just because you perceive the world as a male, and that's how you perceive the world, male with OCD, that does not mean that that is how it is for everyone, because nothing is real. There's not one real thing. It's only bundles of chemistry that is giving us signals and seducing us to believe that all this is real.